Hello and welcome to Unit 4 of MBA 6103 Managing Innovation. This week we'll be discussing innovation networks and the ways in which we search for ideas, search for new innovations both internally within the organization and in the external environment as well. So if we look back to the simplified model for searching for innovation, or the simplified innovation model, we know that kind of step one involves this conducting a search, kind of this internal and external scan of the industry, the environment, looking for opportunities to innovate. So now that we've spent the previous weeks, the previous units, looking at ways to set up our organization, create an organizational culture that fosters innovation and creativity, making sure that we have the right organizational design and structure to prepare for looking for and searching for innovation. That's really the next step. So the remaining units of the class will focus on the simplified innovation model. We're at the point now where we can actually begin searching for opportunities for innovation. And everything we've done up until this point has really kind of laid the foundation for fostering innovation, fostering creativity, encouraging innovation within our company, within our organization. Really just setting the stage for being able to be innovative within our company. So now we actually begin the process of searching out opportunities for innovation, and this is where many times executives and managers and organizations often kind of run into the wall. They kind of hit the wall here. They don't get past the search phase, and they might make some kind of active engagement or some kind of active efforts to go out and look for innovation, but we don't really know where to start, because innovation, again, is not, there's no scripted process for finding and developing new innovations. They can come from many different places. They can come from internal R&D departments. They can come from seeing how users, and we'll talk about that today, seeing how users are actually using our product. All kinds of different ways for us to search for and explore opportunities for innovation. So that's what we're going to focus on this week in this unit, is the actual search, finding opportunities for innovation. So where do innovations come from? We have obviously your text chapters 5 and 6 this week actually do a fantastic job of kind of laying out some of the different places, some of the different areas in which we can find innovation, or some of the sources of innovation. And so much of the material that we'll be covering for this unit comes from both chapters 5 and 6 as we look toward ideas and places where we can go search out innovation. So we know that we have the opportunity to innovate simply from two areas internal to our organization that we can analyze. The first is what we refer to as knowledge push. And these two, knowledge push and needs pull, are kind of the most commonly thought of areas for which innovation can evolve. Knowledge push simply refers to what we often do with our R&D departments, our research and development departments. We invest resources, time, labor, um, human capital into research and development, and we basically give some thinkers, some scientists, some engineers, some inventors. We give them funding and a place to work, and we just kind of put them in a room and tell them to come up with new ideas, develop, use internal knowledge, things that we're doing within the organization. Look at our existing patents, our existing products and services, and just use your knowledge to come up with new ideas, and we push those ideas out. That's why we call it knowledge push, is because we come up with these, we have knowledge internal to our organization that we share, that we use to operate, that we use to develop products and services. We analyze data about our existing products and services, and maybe our customer dispositions, how customers feel about our products. We use that knowledge to develop new ideas, and we just kind of push those out, considered to be innovation. We also see innovation come from what we consider a needs pool. So this is kind of the opposite of what we consider a knowledge push. Instead of having information internal to our organization that we know of, that we develop new ideas where we just kind of push those out, hoping that our customers need them and want these products and services. The exact opposite is true. Out there in the marketplace, our customers have specific needs, and perhaps those needs result in a pulling effect of new ideas and innovations from our organization to our customers. And so if you think of it as kind of a tug of war, not necessarily a tug of war, because they're not opposing or conflicting points of view, but if you think of it that way, if you think of maybe an assembly line, maybe, or a conveyor belt, and our organization is in the middle of that, and on one side we have knowledge and innovations being pushed out, and on the other side you have customers with their needs pulling innovations out. And so there's kind of two sides to this that organizations often look toward for innovation, either internally to begin using our knowledge to push ideas out, or externally from the customer's needs, pulling ideas out. It's very similar to what we've talked about previously with kind of the internal versus external environmental scans. Obviously internal, we're using our existing data and knowledge to come up with new ideas and push those innovations out. Externally, in the external environment, we're relying on customers and competitors to figure out new needs for our existing market and pull those innovations out. We can also locate innovations in new and emerging markets. Now, so much of what we do when we talk about innovation comes from being keenly aware of what is happening out there in our market, the market for our products and services. It requires, true innovation really requires us to be in touch with our customers, our suppliers, our competitors. We have got to know what each one of these groups, competitors, customers, suppliers, we've got to know what they're doing, what they're up to, what's taking place out there in the market right now. And often a new or emerging market might just kind of spring up overnight for a product or service that we are completely unaware of. We might not even have known existed. And so we want to be at the forefront of how our products and services are being used, so that we can identify these potential new and emerging markets. If there's a new market in a different geographic region, or an emerging market in a geographic region for what we offer, our product or service, then we need to be in that area. If we're in the cell phone business and there's an emerging market in India, China, Brazil, we often refer to those as kind of regionally, geographically emerging markets because of the growing economies, and many of those countries and economies are experiencing what we consider to be what we experienced during the Industrial Revolution of years gone by here in the United States. We think of these countries of starting to experience that, or currently experiencing the same kind of emerging market, new industry type of growth. So we really do need to be cognizant of where are these new markets, where are these emerging markets, and do they affect us and our business model, and how can we do business in that area? Customization. Customization is a great place for us to locate or identify, search out and identify potential innovations. Now, we often think of customization simply as something we allow our customers to do. We allow our customers to customize their case for their iPhone. If they want to get an iPhone cover or iPhone case that's pink with rhinestones on it, by all means we can do that. We really begin to see customization in all levels of kind of consumer or retail goods. We know that there are companies out there that specialize in letting customers customize their shoes. You can order special order shoes or shirts, those types of things. So we often think of customization simply as in product use or design, which customization can come in all phases of the manufacturing, distribution, retail process. A great example of customization of distribution has been Amazon with their Amazon Prime membership. Very, very forward thinking in the ability to customize distribution options. And we even see it in Walmart. If you go to walmart.com and you order something from walmart.com, you're able to customize the distribution of that as a customer, which is interesting. You can order it from walmart.com and go pick it up in the store if it's close by. You can have it shipped for free from site to store, so you can have it get free shipping if you order it online and it's not at your local store. The Walmart will send it to your local store within a couple of days, and you go pick it up for free. Or you can have it shipped directly to your house. There's often a shipping cost or shipping fee associated with doing so. But you're given three options as a customer. You're given three options to select kind of the distribution channel, customize the distribution channel to meet your own needs. And so, Walmart has leveraged its logistical system, its distribution system, to allow customers the chance to customize their shipping and delivering needs. I mean, Walmart already had stores in place with many of the products that you would order online anyway. So you could simply look online and purchase it on Walmart and just go pick it up at your local store if it's already available and in stock, and it will tell you if it's already available in stock. Then, with the site to store, free shipping site to store, you can order something that's at a different store or in one of their warehouses someplace, and they'll send it on the next truck that comes to be delivered to your local store. It will arrive with that truck and you go pick it up. And because that's already a sunk cost, they already have a truck coming to your store from that distribution channel. They already have the logistical system in place. It's a service that's offered free to customers. And then the last option, obviously, is to have it shipped directly to your store like you could from some of the other retailers online. So, again, the chance to customize. I mentioned Amazon just a moment ago with its Prime membership. By paying for an Amazon Prime membership, which I believe is about $70 or $80 a year. It's a great service. You get Some perks, you get some free streaming movies, and you get some services for their audio division, their music service. But probably the best thing about the Prime membership is free 2-day shipping. So you're able to take advantage of again, kind of a customized shipping perk, if you will, service with that Amazon Prime membership. So customization can come in the form of obviously distribution, how a product or service is distributed, how it's assembled. At IKEA, other furniture stores. I mean, some of these, you think of the traditional furniture store where you would go in and you'd browse the gallery, and they would have that particular furniture piece in stock, and you would often buy the furniture item that was on the floor because that might have been the only one that they had in stock in their gallery. They might have had a couple of those couches or whatever in the back, but typically you would buy that one on the floor and load it up in a truck and take it home. Now we're starting to see furniture stores and home decor stores that you go in and you order something, they don't have it in stock, or they might have it in stock in the back in a box, and you take it home in a box and put it together yourself. Fabrication and design, again, how products and services are designed. I mean, there are many of the products or services that we use that we're allowed to customize the actual product itself, the actual service itself, how it's designed. Because we allow the customization of these things, we're able to identify potential innovations within that. If we know that we have a large group of customers that want to customize the design of that particular product, and they're really starting to do that, then that might lead to an innovation for our product or service itself. If we notice that customers are buying our kind of one plain vanilla model of our service, but taking it home and customizing it themselves, and you might see this a lot in the computer market. I mean, for the extreme users, you might find that they're buying your product because they like certain things about it, but taking certain things off, or taking certain things out of your product and adding other stuff and customizing. You might see a market for a particular type of product or service. And I mention extreme users, and we'll talk about them down here in a moment. So another area where innovations could come from, obviously, are from the users themselves. And we have three basic categories of users for our products or services: lead users, fringe users, and extreme users. Obviously, the largest category is going to be lead users, and that's basically who the product or services is created for, kind of tailored to. If you think about the PC market, the market for personal computers, most people buy a middle-of-the-road laptop or middle-of-the-road desktop that has the basic computing needs for what we would expect them to do with it. Then you have extreme users, those who might be, kind of the hardcore gamers or the professional gamers or the graphics designers, folks like that, who in the early days of the PC boom had a very specific kind of a niche need, an extreme need for a particular type of machine, and then might have ended up buying parts and services, different parts and different software, whatever, and end up creating their own. Well, now you as a gamer or a graphic designer, you can buy extreme those computers with those extreme services or needs, kind of the gaming style laptops, the gaming style desktops, the computers designed for graphic intensive applications that have those extreme types of needs. And the same is true for just about any product or service, you're going to have a group of users that we consider to be the extreme users, the ones that are very in tune with the product or service and that might take it and use it in an entirely different way. But again, innovations for our product or service can come from any one of these groups if we're keenly aware of how they use the product or service. Then we can begin to customize and tweak and make changes to it to fit those particular markets. So obviously, we can search out innovations by watching others, monitoring the market. And when we say watching others, we're not simply just talking about watching our customers. We obviously need to monitor the market. We need to be monitoring our competition. What's our competition do? One of the best examples of an innovation battle that's taking place right now, in terms of competitors watching one another, monitoring the market, and really kind of going head to head, toe to toe in an innovation battle right now is Apple and Samsung in the smartphone business. Apple with the iPhone, Samsung with the Galaxy S phones. Really watching those two organizations kind of battle it out in terms of who's more innovative, and with each release of the new phone, the iPhone 5, the iPhone 6, and then continue on down the road, Samsung, Galaxy S4, Galaxy S5 down the road, and all these things, what are the new innovations, just the sustaining innovations or the incremental innovations that they can add into their product so they can be considered the most innovative product on the market right now. And so they really do spend a lot of time watching one another, monitoring the market, really figuring out how they can kind of one-up each other. Recombinant innovation, using our product or services combined with something else. Taking our product or service, combining it with a completely different product or service or something else that's out there, and coming up with something new entirely. We often look for innovation kind of what we consider kind of upstream or downstream, with not simply substitute products or services, but products or services that complement, so kind of complementary products or services that would go really well with what we do. Kind of an example would be, coffee pots. You can now buy coffee pots with the built-in coffee grinders that will grind the coffee beans, the coffee burrs, and then take those coffee grounds, and then it'll automatically kind of dump it over into the filter and whatnot, and create brew a cup of coffee or a pot of coffee with fresh ground beans. And so the idea there obviously was you have a standalone coffee pot which requires coffee grounds and a filter, but coffee connoisseurs like to grind their own beans. They like to buy whole beans, and then they put them in a grinder and grind them themselves, and then dump them over into the coffee pot, and have a fresh cup of fresh ground coffee in the morning. Well, obviously the idea was, why could we not combine those two products into one and have this type of recombinant innovation? So now you can go buy a coffee pot where you just, the night before, you put the water in and you load up the whole beans up in the top of the coffee pot, the grinder portion, and in the morning the coffee pot kicks on, grinds the beans automatically, dumps them over into the area where the filter is, and then brews you a fresh pot of coffee and does it all together, all in one. So that's kind of the idea behind recombinant innovation is looking at complementary products and services that we know our customers are using and figuring out a way to put those together into a new kind of emerging product or service. Regulation, obviously, we might consider it unfortunate. However, we do see innovation that comes from regulation. New guidelines for operation, new regulations in how we do business might require us to innovate in our processes internally, become more efficient or less expensive, or maybe reduce our carbon footprint, whatever it might be. We could see innovation come from regulation. And a great example of that obviously is Tesla, the electric car company, because of obviously sustainability and carbon footprints and EPA requirements and emissions requirements for vehicles. The idea behind having electric vehicles that are to be considered true replacements for fossil fuel vehicles led to the growth in what we find in Tesla. And obviously the technology is still innovating, still growing, still evolving, but those things kind of came about because of regulations. Understanding future trends and forecasting, looking out to see kind of where we're going within the market and what we can do to be part of that. And the final thing, the final category where we kind of consider innovations can come from is one that we don't really give enough credit to. All of us, we don't like to make mistakes, we don't like to have accidents, we don't like to fail. But some of the great companies, for instance Google, they have an internal saying that says, fail early, fail often. And the reason behind that is because for new innovations and new technologies and new products and services, you want to make mistakes. You want to find out the bugs and figure out the bugs and figure out what doesn't work right, whether it's in software or a new piece of technology or a new piece of hardware. You want to find out where the failures are, the shortcomings of that technology are before it's too late, before it goes out to the customers, and then you realize you've got some serious problems. And you want to fail, so that's obviously failing often. You want to fail early because it's cheaper to make those failures early on. If your company has just agreed to put together a team to explore a new piece of software or technology or product or service or whatever it might be, and you're in the first couple of weeks, first month or whatever, and you identify, you make a mistake. Well, it hasn't cost a whole lot at that point. You can fix it and move on. Whereas if your company invests in this new product, service, or technology, and a year, 2 years into the research and development, you find a mistake. You find you've failed at something. Something is wrong. By that time, your organization has a lot of money invested in it, and it's more expensive. So by waiting longer to identify our mistakes and failures, obviously it becomes much more costly. If a year or 2 years into the project or whatever it might be, we've identified some mistakes that we should have seen at the beginning, it becomes much more costly. So that's kind of the idea behind the whole fail early, fail often, is make those small mistakes and have those small failures, get them out of the way early on in the beginning, and then we can kind of move forward with the project with a little more confidence, knowing that we've recognized those areas that those shortcomings, those areas that we need to fix. So here's just an example of some of the, if we were to kind of sit down and kind of map out where innovations come from, we've already mentioned, here's one, advertising, by monitoring the market, staying in tune with the industry. We can identify innovations through our advertising efforts. We often think of innovation as that Archimedes moment, that great moment of inspiration where one of our team members or one of our employees or even us ourselves, just have a light bulb moment, an idea that just pops on in our mind and our brain is something that we need to do, and it becomes the next great innovation. We've talked about knowledge push and need pull. Obviously, by pushing out new ideas within the organization or seeing needs from our customers being the source through which innovation comes. Looking to our users as innovators. Looking out through forecasting and future trends, understanding what the future holds, or at least trying to be cognizant of where the future is going, could also be a source of innovation. We've talked about regulation, recombinant innovation in terms of the coffee pot and coffee grinder as an example. Watching others, keeping informed or keeping in tune with what the market's doing, with what our competitors are doing. I gave the example of Apple and Samsung for this. Accidents, making mistakes, and shocks to the system. Things or events that change the way we think about the way we do things with certain products or services. This might come from a shift in the way consumers connect with one another. If we look at home telephone services, many folks no longer have a home phone line because of cell phones and the internet and whatnot. They might use voice over internet protocol, they might use Skype, they might communicate via Facebook and their cell phones. And so obviously, if you're a home telephone service provider, there obviously was a shock to the system. Things that happen, events that take place and transpire that we really cause us to think differently about how we use certain products or services. Search strategies. So now that we've identified kind of some sources of innovation, we think about what are some strategies for searching things out. And these are kind of generic. These are more just generalized. Sending out scouts, obviously, investing the money in those folks who are out there scouting the market for new ideas. And this often, again, comes from looking at what our competitors are doing, looking at what the users of our products are doing. Exploring multiple futures, cognizantly thinking about what are some possible futures for where our products or services could go. If you're in the publishing business, you're thinking about, okay, what are the futures? Is one potential future a future where everyone has a smartphone or a tablet and they no longer want to carry around print books with them? Or is there a future where nostalgia and kind of the old school way of thinking, really becomes more popular again, and we have this niche group of folks who want a print leather book and they want kind of more the high end? Or does print media become more of a luxury, and instead of having inexpensive paperbacks, perhaps the people who are interested in just the read itself would obviously read it on a tablet or a smartphone. And then you have the other group of consumers who are in it for the nostalgia of having a print book, and they prefer the hardcover, maybe leather-bound, more high-end physical print book. And so maybe the print media, maybe physical print books become a luxury item rather than the paperback, type of book. So, companies begin to explore multiple futures and innovate around that. Obviously, using the web, working with active users, sitting down with folks who are actively using our product and figuring out how we can figure out better ways to meet their needs. Corporate entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. We often think about, we talk about types of networks, types of idea generators. Entrepreneurship, obviously, we think of the business owner, the person who's entrepreneurial in spirit, wants to start their own business, develop their own product or service, and kind of go it on their own and formulate their startup. The intrapreneur works the same way, but internally to the organization, has that same mentality, that same startup mentality, but does so with the support internal to the organization. So if you think about what an entrepreneur does, and I'll go ahead and move forward here. Because we're going to talk about entrepreneur and intrapreneur here in a moment. If we think about what the entrepreneur does, the entrepreneur starts up a business, comes up with an idea, product or service, starts up a business, gets funding, and takes that product, idea, service, whatever it is, forward on their own. They put together their team and their people and hire their employees and try to make a go of it. Well, the entrepreneur, again, has the same kind of mentality, except rather than going it on their own, they convince the senior management, senior administration, the folks internal to the organization that this is a product or service, is something that they need to do, and get the funding behind it, put the project team in place, almost very much like a startup, and then develop that product or service internally to the organization, and it becomes a new product or service for the company. So entrepreneuring and intrapreneuring, we are very similar, with the exception that one group or individual has obviously the support of the organization for which they're doing this. The other is kind of going it on their own. So if we're trying to search out and develop new ideas, obviously we want to put together some type of innovation network, because we want the right people talking to one another at the right time, and then we want them to have the right information, access to the right information. So innovation doesn't occur in a vacuum. Innovation requires collaboration. We've got to have teams and groups of talented individuals working together to foster these new ideas. They have to be able to collaborate. So if we don't give them the processes, the technologies, we don't give them the places to collaborate, the means to collaborate, then they will end up operating in a vacuum. And as your book says, your book starts, I believe it's chapter 6, with the quote, no man is an island, which is absolutely correct. Innovation doesn't come solely from one individual and develop from one. One person might come up with an idea, but to take that idea and foster it and create it and move it into a tangible reality, that does not occur in a vacuum. And so we end up setting up types of networks. We end up seeing and trying to foster and create these types of networks. And the type of network that we as executives or managers, support and create that type of network is going to directly parallel the types of advantages and the attributes of the innovation that we desire. If we want an internal kind of proprietary process innovation, something that becomes a competitive advantage for us internally, that we don't want to share with the outside world, that's something that makes us more effective as a business and how we operate, then obviously we need a network type that is more closed, internal to the organization. We don't want it shared with the external market and the outside world, and vice versa. If the product or the innovation that we're looking for is more of an open source type of thing, then that's the type of network we need. And this kind of comes back to the idea of knowledge sharing and emergent design. We focus in innovation, we focus on this concept of emergent design, recognizing emerging ways, new ways of doing things, better ways of doing things, but having a system in place through how we share knowledge, through how we collaborate, to be able to capitalize on that design. If we go months or years of everyone in the organization knowing that, hey, there really is a better way to do this. Joe over in research and development came up with a great way to do this, yet we don't have a system in place to capitalize on that. Pretty soon one of our competitors will do so. And the last slide here discusses the types of innovation networks. We've already discussed entrepreneur and intrapreneur network, whereas we have a system in place, a network in place that allows these types of individuals, the entrepreneurial spirited folks, the intrapreneurial folks, to generate ideas, put together teams, and take that idea forward with all of the support in terms of resources, personnel, managerial support that we need to give them to create that new idea, that new product or service, take it to market all the way through. We want those folks to be able to develop their project teams. So we can develop networks that are simply focused on teams, project teams, collaborating, cross-functional teams and from different departments, working together on better ways of doing things. Communities of practice. You might find communities of practice, great examples of community practice often tend to kind of emerge from the social networks. For example, Facebook. You might have friends or yourself or coworkers or whoever it might be that might be involved in a particular group or might be involved with a particular network of people, like maybe parents that homeschool. You'll often find that they might collaborate within certain communities, and maybe whether they work together on Facebook or some other type of social avenue. They might all meet at a particular church, or might meet at a particular park to do, on Wednesdays to let their kids play and to discuss homeschooling activities for that week. So communities of practice, practice for a particular field, collaborate obviously in a particular network. Spatial clusters, developing networks based on geographic location. Consortiums, conferences, being able to attend a consortium dedicated to folks maybe working in a particular industry where they can come together and, once a year and share ideas. We see this particularly in higher education a lot. Everybody in their particular respective departments, might attend a couple of conferences a year dedicated to their field. For example, technology and online learning. There are multiple conferences or consortiums that take place every year that you can go to and learn more about what's happening in that field. Supply chain relationships, great way to learn about innovation, because we all have suppliers or vendors that become a critical part of our business model. and we can learn from our supply chain relationships what's taking place out there in the market. We might have one of our reps or vendor reps or whatever from one of our supply chain relationships come to us with some new ideas for improving our products or services based upon their relationships with other customers. And finally, emerging industry standards. If the industry is adopting certain standards, then we can look to that for innovation. And again, going back to the computer business, the computer industry, the PC industry, if one of the modes of storage obviously is cloud storage, then you see a lot of the software makers, the big technology companies, not just software makers, but obviously Google, Microsoft, and Apple, really adopting the idea that people would want to store their stuff, music, pictures, files in the cloud and be able to retrieve them anywhere from an internet connection. That's why you have Google Drive. That's why you have Microsoft SkyDrive. That's why you have iCloud, Apple. So with many products, Dropbox, another example. So with many products or services that have a standard that's beginning to emerge, kind of a best practice that's beginning to emerge, we look to that for ways to innovate as well. Because in the end, again, innovation comes from, more often than not, being keenly aware of what's happening out in the market, what our customers want, what their needs are, how they use our product or service, what our competitors are doing. We have to be fully immersed, fully vested in what it is that we're trying to accomplish and the product or service that we want to offer, not only now but in the future as well. And so using these networks and using some of these processes we've talked about in this unit kind of become building blocks, steps for doing that.